Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Astronomical Sports Podcast. Today, I wanted to review Framber Valdez's choppy start in 2022, give a little insight to let y'all know what I believe is going on, how I believe he can return back to the form that we are all accustomed to, and give you a little bit of details on where you can find this information a little bit more in depth. So, first off, in 2021, during the World Series, I noticed that Framber Valdez velocity got up to 96, 97 in his two appearances. At the World Series, he didn't pitch very well and he didn't pitch very much. So I started to wonder, why would that change so much? And so I've been watching his starts recently in this season, and I noticed his velocity had been getting up 94 and above at times. And we've also noticed in the last two games his location and I guess a little bit of his ability to generate some of that soft contact had been negated. It looks like it was just a little off, and it happens. It happens to a lot of the best pitchers. I'm sure you can ask a lot of the greats that they didn't always have their best stuff, and they find a way. But for Framber Valdez to be successful, he really builds his repertoire and his weapons, so to speak, around his fastball and his sinker. Those generate a lot of soft contact. That's what makes him a really good fit as a pitcher at Minute Maid Park. He's able to get the ball on the ground and let the defense work. He does have strikeout potential, but most of the time you're looking for him to induce a lot of ground balls, get a lot of outs that way. So I went back and reviewed his 2021 season with the 3 starts in 2022, and I separated out the velocities in 3 different categories, whether it was below 92, between 92 and 92.9, and then obviously above 93. Now this is average velocity across the board for those games. So you can see here a table of how I split them up: number of games, wins, losses, ERA, this, that, and the other. So the reason why I was very fixated on velocity is because when you're throwing a pitch and you're generating spin and you're looking to generate movement, there is a totally capable, I guess how I'm saying it is, it's totally capable to overthrow your pitch and to remove all the movement if you're throwing it too hard. The speed would negate the spin rate, not allowing it to move because of the velocity that it's carrying. So I started to wonder, what did that look like from a statistical standpoint? And so it got me looking into his overall average velocity across the board. Last year in 2021, he was averaging below 94. Actually, I believe it was 92 to 93 and a half in velocity in 2021. And in his 3 starts, he's averaging above 94. So it's 1 mile per hour difference, a mile and a half. But when you start to expand that across all his pitches, it starts to really correlate to the concept or the thought that I had, is that the velocity is negating his ability to generate that late movement. And as we all know, we were very familiar with that with Dallas Keuchel during his time with the Astros. He was very good at generating soft contact and getting ground ball outs. So you'll just see with the data here, it just kind of gives you an idea of what it's looking like and how his velocity affects his ability to pitch. And pitch effectively is more or less the bigger question here. I am very much biased to the point of, I believe a lot of the best pitchers in the game, like a Greg Maddux, were very more artistic, and they relied on that movement, and they found ways to extend themselves into games and everything else. And since right now baseball is so meticulous about the number of innings, the number of pitches, and everything that they're going through, it would benefit the bullpen a lot if Framber is able to keep that 6 to 7 inning average up throughout the season. Obviously, that could be a little bit more of a toll on him, so they'll be mitigating that throughout the year. But as you can see from the stats, when he's below 92, he does allow more walks and hits per innings pitched. The BABIP, which is a batting average on balls in play, that excludes home runs and strikeouts, is near 300. His walk rate is up. His ERA is just above 3, but he's able to pitch 6 innings or more. Obviously, it doesn't generate a lot of win and losses in his favor, but the truth is there's a lot that goes into win and losses in general, so I'm not going to harp on that as much. So when I looked at the 92 to 92.9 range, similar correlations in wins and losses, very similar average inning pitch, which we'd like to see, but obviously a sub 3 ERA. The walk rate went down, the walk percentage went down, the whip went down, and the BABIP went down. So I believe that correlates to that's where his pitches generate the most movement, and that's where they're most effective in that range. That allows him to really get hitters a little more off balance, either get them on their front foot or just rolling those pitches over or just striking the ball, the barrel of the bat in the wrong place to where they're unable to square it up at contact. And then breaking down the average velo above 93, obviously he's 4-1, so of course, what am I talking about, right? But the innings go down almost 2 innings a game that he's unable to pitch. His ERA is above 4, and at 4.67, so they're obviously generating more contact and generating a little bit more power in a sense. That's how I would relate that. Even though his ERA, below 92, his ERA is at 3.17, his BABIP's 289. A difference there is there's a lot more hard contact above 93. So obviously hard contact can correlate to more RBIs, more extra base hits. The type of things that Framber Valdez really doesn't want to happen happens in that range. And his whip is up. His walk rate stays relatively around the same range. I haven't broken them down by decimal points, but this is pretty much where it's at. So that brings me to conclude that I think he really just needs to find that sweet spot of where that velocity fits and matches with what he's trying to do with that fastball and that sinker. I also believe that will ultimately help the development of the cutter that he's working on. And obviously it sets up the curveball very well. So a lot of hitters are able to key in on velocity to identify pitches. And so when he's able to stay in a certain range, like that 92 to 93, I believe it just pairs very well with the curveball and setting up those hitters to be on their front foot when they approach it, because they're looking for one thing and obviously getting another. That's the beauty of pitching, is the deception. Baseball nowadays has become such a power game, and it's all about exit velos and launch angles and obviously how hard can you throw it. Well, unfortunately, some folks just do not have the gift of being able to pump 98 and above every time. I know Framber can. He's hit 97 continuously, but does that bring out the best in Framber Valdez? I don't believe so. So tonight, he takes the mound in about 20 minutes. I will be looking to see where his velocity sits, how well that correlates to the location he's able to put, able to put pitches on, and ultimately how it's going to fit with his curveball. I believe this is a great opportunity in this series for him to get back on track and to find himself, a lot closer towards that 2021 Valdez and a little bit more on track, because I believe he has electric stuff. I believe he has Cy Young potential. A lot of this is just going to come down to him finding that sweet spot and working within that sweet spot. So that being said, I do want to lead this into a little bit of a, promotional standpoint. So the Astronomical Sports Podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can find us on Anchor. Obviously, you can just Google Astronomical Sports Podcast, and it will take you right to the site where you can listen to all our episodes. There is a more in-depth article that will be published, or actually is already published, at LarryTheGM.com. It's listed on the bottom. Larry and I collaborate a lot of things about the Astros. It's one of the best things that is out there, I believe, in terms of content and the extensive knowledge in the content. Larry has a great great understanding of the data and how it correlates to what's happening on the field. I try to throw in my 2 cents of visuals and what I see from pitchers physically and what's going on, kind of in a play-by-play in-game type scenario. So Larry's side is pretty much the game within the game, and that's what we are always talking about. So I please encourage you to go to his site, read his articles, read the articles we wrote about Jeremy Pena, read about Hector Neris, read about all the data that Larry pulls in to explain what the Astros should be looking for, what they should want, and how they're going to obviously get back to the World Series and win one. So we are on Twitter. Please get back to us at Astro Sports Pod if you have any questions, any feedback. If you'd like to have a discussion, whatever that may be. There will be a video on this posted onto YouTube as well. It will include this feed, but that will come at a later date. But I just want to say thank you for giving me the chance to talk to you about this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll join us on social media. I hope you'll listen, like us, follow, shout out, whatever it may be. But thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.